What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mar B, and you are listening to another episode of the Man Listen Show. Before we get started, let's hear from our sponsors.
Title Boxing Club of Rock Hill is proud to be a sponsor of the Man Listen Show. Title Boxing Club Rock Hill offers dynamic boxing and kickboxing classes for all. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TBC Rock Hill.
The Man Listen Show is also brought to you by Conversate With Us Radio. Conversate With Us Radio, your urban radio show podcast. A fun place to look for advice and a different perspective on life, love, relationships, sports, and politics. One conversation at a time. You can find us on Facebook at Conversate With Us Radio and on Instagram at Conversate With Us. Don't forget to capitalize the V in Conversate. All right, we're back. So let me go ahead and introduce the crew. C, what's up?
Hey, what's good?
I'm good. B Lab, what's up with you, brother?
What's going on, man? What's up?
Doing lovely, man. Well, no, I can't say that. Doing good, bruh. Doing good. Can't tell a brother I'm doing lovely. Arika, what's up with you?
I'm good. What's up?
I'm gonna leave that in there too, because that's funny. But check it out. So today we're talking about one of my favorite players in the NBA, Russell Westbrook. And usually that's a tongue tie for me to say Russell Westbrook. But in the news, Russell, he got into it with a fan, which is, it seems to be almost common for him, and I don't know why. We'll talk about it later. But here recently, he got into it with a fan of the Utah Jazz, and there was cameras that show Russell. He was iced up, or he had heat on his knees, and basically he was telling the fan, you know what, I'll straight F you up. You and your wife, I will F you up. And you could tell by the way Russ was saying that he straight up and down meant what he said to the fan. So we're going to talk about today about Russell Westbrook, his interactions with the fans. Is there a problem with how the fans look at and treat players in the NBA, and what does that mean overall for us as black people? So, Lav, I mean, you are a sports guy, man. What did you think initially when you saw the incident?
Initially, when I saw it, it was all too common, really, in the NBA. If you ask players around the league, especially in Utah, they'll say that kind of thing has been happening in Utah for years. So it really was no surprise, or I wasn't shocked by it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think Russ said, man, that the Utah Jazz fans are known to be disrespectful. I think I read a news story when Derek Fisher used to play for him, right? He used to play for the
Yeah, he
Jazz,
did.
and there was an incident where his daughter got sick. His daughter got
Right.
sick. She had something going on with her eye, and they released him from the team. And I think he immediately signed with the Lakers, right? And for whatever reason, did he sign with the Lakers?
Yeah, I think it's the Lakers, so he could be closer to home or something like
Right,
that.
right, or like closer to better medical treatment for his
Yeah,
daughter.
yeah.
So the news, the stories say that when Fish returned to Utah, they were heckling him about his daughter, saying that
I remember that.
every time that he touched the ball, they would say cancer, cancer, and just really despicable and low down things. So I wasn't shocked because I believe the players, but I mean, Arika, what did you think when you saw the incident took place?
Well, honestly, I heard this about the story on Undisputed first. So I didn't see what Russ had actually said until today, which I think is hilarious. But I also think that Shannon kind of broke down exactly how I felt about it when I did see it, because I was like, well, I believe Russ was like, if you say it again, it's on. And I was like, and he's like, I put that on everything I love. I was like, hey, man. he obviously heard something that was disrespectful. So what I originally heard was to get on your knees like your ancestors used to. But then everything that I've seen since then that he's talked about it, he said get on your knees like you're used to, which is kind of weird to me. But I think the first statement was a little more racially charged. But regardless, in the moment, if he felt that the comment was racially charged, and what I'm hearing is that the fan actually went there to kind of incite Russ because he has a history of getting into it with fans. The fact that he tried to delete his tweets off of what is it called, Twitter, and then the fact that he has a history of saying things that are kind of racially charged. I think that he definitely had an agenda, and it's unfortunate that Russ was targeted by that, and I feel he was completely justified in his response because I would have probably reacted the same way, if not worse, which is why I work for myself.
There's certain things that you don't say to a grown man. And most grown men know that. But I think about the game that we have to play as black men in corporate America. And when you look at the NBA, even though it's not corporate America, it still really is. So there's things that you have to deal with, right? We all have to play the game. However, I do think that, as a man, you have to draw the line somewhere. And you have to be able to turn over a table when turn over the table is called for. You see in the old movies and they'd be like, God damn it, I had enough, and they turn over the table. That's what you gotta that's what you gotta do sometimes. And I think that this fan, obviously, we as black men often have to take the higher road. And the other side knows how to press your button and knows how to get you inside. And it's not just for black men, they do it to our sisters as well. They play that game, and then, when you saw the interview from this man that heckled Russ, he did what? What do I call it? See? White girl one on one. He tried to play the victim. And
Yep,
then
that's exactly what he did.
he tried to cover his tracks and delete his tweets where he was talking about Russ. He tried to delete his association with Trump because it was obvious that, in my personal opinion, it was somewhat racially tinged. So, see, let me go ahead and bring you in. What did you think?
When I first heard what Russ said, I knew he wasn't acting that way just for no reason at all. And then, the other fans actually that were there actually confirmed Russ's story, to Utah, I guess like personnel or somebody up top when they was kind of asking, like trying to debate on what he said. And like Erika made a good point too. And the fact that he had made other racial comments on his Twitter that people had already found and screenshotted, and then all of a sudden he wipes his whole Twitter page out. So I mean, that pretty much confirmed that he was trying to make a racial comment. And I agree with you. I mean, I do think that black men are in a position to where they have to react differently to things. But at the same time, I mean, they say like the tongue is powerful. Like what I mean. It could cause it's the difference between life and death. Like that man can't go around saying stuff like that and thinking because he paid for a ticket nothing's gonna happen. I mean, Russ has made enough money that he's set for the rest of his life. I mean, he's getting up there. At one point, somebody's going to say the wrong thing, and Russ might just be ready to risk it all. And somebody get knocked out.
And you know what? And what I don't get, though, is that there's certain people that you just don't want it with. You know what I mean? There's like I'm not a tough guy, but I'm gonna fight anybody, right? Just because I'm a man. But there's certain people that I'm gonna fight you, but I really ain't gonna like it because you know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
I'm obligated to, but
right, yeah. I'm gonna throw down, but I know this ain't gonna end well. But this, as off GP of being a man, we got to make something happen. But Russ, with how he plays, and if you look at just his whole approach to the game, I don't see why he is somebody that you would want to bring that type of energy towards, because he is not going to back down. But maybe that's why they bring it, because they know that they can sort of clout chase and incite him into doing something crazy, and they get their 5 minutes of fame. Because you remember when the old white dude was like by courtside and he shot Russ the double birds, like flipped him off like straight up to his face. I mean, he's had people come from the crowd after the game try to accost him, and then a couple of weeks ago, a little kid pushed him. I mean, lad, what's up with this, man? I mean, what? I mean, Is Russ
Who's
a
grabbing? Who's
target for
grabbing the
whatever
phone?
reason? What's going on?
Well, I think it kind of speaks to like what you were saying. You know whose buttons you can press and who you'll get a reaction out of. And I think there are people who know that Russ is he plays on edge and very emotional, so it's easy to kind of draw some kind of response or some kind of emotion from him. Whereas if somebody like Paul George on the same team, he's very calm and collective, and he's probably not going to get a response. So they're not going to say anything to him because they know they're not going to draw a response. So I think that's why they go with Russell. And I think at times Russell does have fun with him, but there are points where, especially in Utah, where they cross the line.
Let me ask the question to the crew. Do you think Russ has an obligation to do better and not having the rabbit ears and responding to the fans?
Well, for one, I don't think that things aren't happening to other players. I think that it's because Russ gets a response that we hear about it more often. I think that people are still doing stuff to the other players, but because, like you say, maybe a Paul George is more calm when somebody in a crowd pushes him or something, if he just keeps walking, that doesn't become news.
Right.
But because Russ is more passionate and he does give it a response, I think that does make him a bigger target because, for one, the media is looking at him more closely because they're waiting on a response. And I don't think that he has a responsibility to not respond. I think that when we try to force people to accept disrespect, we're trying to negate their humanity because just because I have a certain job doesn't mean that you can talk to me any kind of way while I'm at the job. I'm still a person first. I'm still who I am first. I just happen to work here. So if somebody talks to me crazy in court, I'm going to respond in court. I'm not going to wait and talk to them in the hallway. No, we're going to talk right now because if you're bold enough to say something disrespectful now, then you're bold enough to take this response right now. And I think that people forget that there are people out here in the world that are not dependent on this moment to sustain their whole lifestyle. I have 5 jobs for a reason. Like, because I want to be able to say bye to any one of them whenever I get ready and keep it pushing.
It's sort of like how my mom used to treat whooping your behind. Wherever you acted up is where you can get it. So I remember getting punched and backhanded in the grocery store, church. It didn't matter. So I definitely feel it, but I think you do got to be smart about it. I mean, because Russ does have a lot to lose, and we need guys like him. I don't see Russ as being as vocal as like the LeBrons, the Chris Pauls, but I still think it's important that we have guys like Russ who are able to build that money and build that wealth because we need that as a community. And I think that's why some people look at the NBA players in the way that they do because they don't respect the humanity of those guys, like Erika said. They look at them as somebody who is privileged, who just happen to be 6'9", 6'10", 7 foot, and they're getting paid to play a child's game. So they don't respect them and they feel that they can talk to them any kind of way.
I don't think it's just basketball. I know I have a lot of cousins that have played, in the NFL, and they say the same thing. There's certain cities that are really like racially charged when they go and they make those comments, and the fans are okay with it. Philly is another one that they said is really, really bad. Like anytime you play in Philly, you're going to hear like a racial comment or something, said, or they make comments about, oh, your mom's on welfare, your dad's in prison and a crackhead. So Arika's right. Russ is not the only one that's hearing it. I think Russ just responded that one time, and so now, like she said, that the cameras are just focused on him. But in my opinion, like fans should be banned the same way Utah banned this guy. I'm not sure how they're gonna. I don't know. Like, what if he wears a hat and buys a ticket? Like, a whole nother section. Like, is somebody looking for him? I don't know how you make sure no one comes back to the stadium or something
I
like
was
that. But I do think that they should happen.
Y'all ain't peeped this. C just said in a roundabout way that all white guys look alike. You know.
right. See it. How you gonna know
Throw a hat on them and they
them? No,
indescribably the
but
same.
Right.
I agree. I was wondering the same thing. Like, how do you ban a fan?
Yeah.
Because everybody is not going to realize that. Like, oh, this is
No.
that one guy. All he has to do is grow a beard or cut his beard
Right.
off or whatever. I
Wear a
don't know how
hat.
it happens either. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it does speak to the perspective or the opinion that these players are privileged, and that that they're not. They should, like, it's the whole, what was the lady's name, Laura Ingraham, when she said just shut up and dribble. I think that applies more than just to their opinions on politics. I think it
Right.
applies to them being on the court. Yeah, we could talk to you how we want to. Just shut up and dribble because you're privileged to be here.
Hmm. I mean,
Your entertainment.
right, exactly. That's what I was about to say. For them, it is. It's a show, and it's an interactive show for a lot of them. They want to come and be entertained and be part of the entertainment for real.
Well, and speaking of privilege and athletes, or what we call I use athletes in quotations. What did y'all think about this whole college admissions scandal? What was the girl, Aunt Becky from Full House? Was it Full House?
Yeah,
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 Full House.
Aunt Becky from,
Lori Laughlin.
yeah, Lori Laughlin. She got caught up for, if you're living under the rock and you haven't heard about it, there was a sting by the FBI on wealthy parents who were paying individuals to take college admissions tests for their students, for their children, so that they could be admitted into high level prestigious universities. Some of these parents were paying as much as $500,000 to get their child to qualify to be admitted to one of these universities, and I think they even went as far as to Photoshop their child's face onto other athletes' bodies so that they could qualify as an athlete to get admitted to one of these prestigious universities. What were y'all thoughts about this whole ordeal?
I was surprised actually, and I think maybe I might be a little tainted because I just finished listening to Asada Shakur's autobiography on Audibles, and so I was like, wait a minute. COINTELPRO is fresh in my mind. I'm like, the FBI is actually going after rich white Americans. That happens. They got time.
Right, right.
But I was surprised that they even created a sting for something of this nature. I was like, somebody did something wrong to get y'all on the FBI's like list because they got a long list of people they're looking at, and for them to turn their eyes on rich white America is astonishing to me because it's not like this is something new. It's like not like we didn't know that they were paying for positions in these prestigious colleges. We're not shocked or amazed that some of these kids don't deserve to be there. I mean, we look at George Bush. He was a C student his whole life, and he has what? I don't even know where he went to school, but I imagine it was somewhere nice.
I think he went
And
to Yale.
exactly, he is not a Yale student, unless Yale is a lot easier than I imagined it to
You
be.
should have applied. Huh?
Hey,
But somebody that I follow on Instagram, it's called the Free Roots. He has a lot of like good information for people, especially ADOS. But he talked about how it kind of brings light to the fact that they've been hip to the fact that it's not the education that you receive from the university, it's the reputation of the university that you're paying for. They don't care if you come out of Yale with a C, a D, you came out of Yale.
mm-hmm.
Now, meanwhile, you can come out of Mizzou with straight A's. You're not going to be considered over that student that had a C at Yale because of the reputation of the school. So they're not buying the education, they're buying the reputation. And that's something that we keep trying to, what's it called? What's that phrase that they used to say? We keep trying to hitch to their wagon or whatever. When really, if we just poured our money into the HBCUs that are actually teaching our kids about our heritage and how to improve our own people's quality of life, instead of we keep trying to jump in and play their game, and we keep losing because they've been playing it for longer. They've got more money, they've got more connections. Their kids are not smarter than our kids. They're not getting a better education than our kids. They're just getting a better reputation than our kids. And then Lori Laughlin's daughter just dropped out. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll just drop out." You're an idiot. I'd have kept that education and got that
Straight
degree.
up. I'm already here.
Right.
You
I'm
know,
already here now.
and what's crazy is you got like people like Michelle Obama, Princeton grad, Harvard Law School, and they question everything that question her intelligence. And you got people like George W. Bush, hell, John McCain. John McCain was a legacy. His dad and his grandfather were legacy in the military. And come to find out, if you do research into John McCain, man, this dude was a royal screw up, crashing planes. And I'm not talking about when he got caught and he was,
Right.
a prisoner of war. I'm not making light of that. But like before all that happened, man, like this dude was a royal screw up. And he still was lauded as, one of America's heroes. Now, the way people look at us as American DOS and our accomplishments, and the way they question in the whole we got to run twice as fast as them, it's exhausting and it's tiring. But I think if you're like me, I felt somewhat vindicated by this news story that shows that, hey, you know what, we do belong, and you all have to pull as many strings as possible just to get to this place to beat us and to stay ahead of us.
No doubt about it. There's probably 1,000 kids today whose parents are talking to some administrator or dropping 50,000 off to somebody so their kid can go to Brown or Harvard or Yale next year. So this isn't going to change anything, but like you said, it does kind of bring a certain sense of vindication, or it brings everything to light.
I was talking to one of my customers, and we were kind of going back and forth about family or whatever. And I was talking about my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter is, on her third year in college. And I was talking about the cost of college, and I got three other kids I got to worry about, trying to figure out how we're going to get this stuff paid for, and pushing them to get scholarships, pushing them to find a way to avoid having student loans. And he straight up, bold faced, looked at me in my eye and said, "Hey man, why do you care? Your kids ain't got to pay for college." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I mean, no offense, but you're black. Y'all don't pay to go to school." And I looked at him, and I wanted to go full Russell Westbrook, but I was like, "Nah, I need this money." You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, "That's not true. I had to pay for everything, and my parents paid for my education, and I earned everything that I got." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to offend you, but see, I mean, like he was like straight up legit. Like he believed that we don't pay for what we get, and everything is given to us, and as if black people haven't worked for anything since we were working for free as slaves. What do you think?"
Ask him, can I send him these student loan payments?
Right,
Ditto.
right,
All of that. All of
all of
that.
that, all of
Man,
that. I'm gonna
that's
have
crazy.
I'm gonna have Navy. I'm gonna give you I'm giving Navy your email. Your email.
Man,
I just need your route number. You know what I'm saying? So
y'all remember what was that one crew, the Anonymous or whatever, that was hacking everybody? I was like, will they come get Sally Mae Navy? Like they getting everybody but them. Like
Please.
I was looking every day, waking up, looking at the news, like, damn it, they still ain't got them.
Trying to enlist. What do I have to do to join?
Right.
right.
Like y'all going after the wrong people. But I agree with y'all though. I mean, we know it's going on. It's been going on for a long time. I will say that I was surprised though that the sailing team and the rowing team and all those coaches were in on it. Like one of them, I don't know which one of those actresses' daughter, but she actually, they paid some little kids or some high school students to let her put on the rowing outfit and actually take pictures with the rower or something like that, and actually was posting those and sending those in. So I kind of thought that part was funny. Like I said, I knew they was paying for test scores and paying for entrances, but and then when they said the sailing coach is fired, I was like, man, they giving out scholarships for sailing now?
I was shocked because I saw one. I don't know. I might be stereotyping, but I saw some of the school administrators that were involved in this, and one of them was a brother, and I was like, I know he ain't over like the rowing team. I don't know no brothers rowing. You know what I'm saying?
He's in crew.
Or
He's
the
on
sailing
crew.
team.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
on crew.
So like that's a collegiate sport now?
He's the
Right.
token.
It
He's
is
the
in the
one
Ivy,
graduate.
Ivy League. They got rowing or crew.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
But the reason they got them onto the hit the sports coaches is because there's a different qualification for you to be an athlete to get into college. That's why some of these kids, so if I'm designated as an athlete, my SAT can be 1,200 instead of 1440 or something. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why they had them designated as athletes.
Mhm.
See, I always thought that if you were an athlete, you still had to qualify for the university. I mean, I thought
Right.
that you.
You qualify, but they have a separate criteria for of qualifications if you can bring quote unquote bring something different to the university per se. So if you're bringing some kind of, you can bring exposure or you can bring uh
Shuck and jive.
basically
Money.
yeah
March Madness is a
money
billion
yeah.
dollar business right now.
But those sports aren't really revenue sports, but still, I
They're
guess they
not.
figured that you could still bring some notoriety, I guess, to the university. So I guess that's why they went for the sports angle.
Hey, but you know what though? Every time I hear the word crew, I think about how high. He was like, I don't mind cutting my evening short to be there.
Hey, now you know that how high
Ivory,
one of our boys is up in there.
And what?
And how
Where?
high?
Yeah,
Ivory, he was Ivory.
Ivory. He's frat. He's a Yay. That's our boy
He
Chuck.
went to
No
Mizzou.
way. I
Yeah,
did not
Yeah,
know
he
that.
from
yeah,
St. Louis.
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah. He plays
Oh,
Yay.
you know, because we had a screening for that at Mizzou. That was, man.
Yeah, because of Chuck. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what do y'all think this whole ordeal would mean for us as Black people?
I don't think it'll make a difference. I mean, I'm not even sure a whole lot's going to happen to them. I mean, it looks like, America's going after them, but what's really going to happen in the end? I mean, just like, it makes me think there was a black mother. I'm not sure what state. It was a couple years ago. She was actually charged and convicted, sentenced to jail time
Yep.
because she enrolled her kids into a different district because she wanted them to have a better education and be safe. I guarantee nobody gets jail time in this situation.
Honestly, I think it could actually hinder, and I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but because of the two different admission standards, I expect people to say, hey, we need to just have one uniform admission standard, nothing special for athletes, and then there will be certain athletes that won't be able to take advantage of scholarship opportunities in the revenue sports. And so, if anything, I think it will harm young black students.
That's never going to happen.
No,
You-
I'm telling. They're suing now. They're already suing. There's class action lawsuits at Stanford, at all these schools, and Stanford's in a Power Five conference. So whatever happens there is going to end up happening at University of Washington, University of Oregon, all that kind of stuff.
Do you know how much revenue these kids are bringing into these schools? They will fight tooth and nail to let these kids get in with whatever SAT, ACT scores they have.
They will.
And I see them hiring all the big lawyers, and you'll see all the big law firms coming out of nowhere to represent these universities because these standards have been in place for years. And just because these parents are buying their way around these standards, that doesn't reflect on the university. They still have the same standards.
Yeah.
So,
I think
I mean, it may affect the monitoring of the standard, but
I doubt it. Like you said, that's $1 billion business just in March and April in one sport.
a lot. My thing is, so I was the full-time faculty at a university, a for-profit university, a couple years ago. And that university basically did a study and predicted a trend that for-profit universities were about to go under because regulations were being passed that were going to make it harder for them to just basically what they do is they enroll a bunch of people, get their financial aid money, and they know these people have no ability and no intention of actually getting a degree. They came to get their refund money, and the school came to get the financial aid money, and everybody wins. And these kids end up with this debt that they can't pay back, and they don't realize they income tax is going to be taken for the next however many years or whatever. So when they started closing these schools down, not too long ago, maybe like 3 years ago, when you started seeing Missouri College close, Battarat just closed its doors spontaneously the other day. A bunch of these colleges just ended up closing their doors. You started realizing the impact that the legislation that was passed had on the community, because now you're starting to see that these schools understand the value of the students. So a lot of schools, I was surprised when UMSL and Mizzou went to online degrees, online programs and stuff like that, because I think that it's easier to cheat and it kind of devalues the degree a little bit. but they understand that that's the growing trend. And so the schools have been very resilient in keeping up with the trends and getting around whatever they want to get around. So I don't think that they're going to give up the revenue from the sports programs that they're benefiting basically off of our backs to, to keep these schools afloat. Because I don't care how many scholarships you give out, how many great students you have, how many people are paying 500,000. They're not bringing in the revenue that these 50 kids on the football team, these 20 kids on the basketball team are bringing in. Nobody, no single person at that school is bringing in the amount of money that these sports programs are bringing in, and they will do anything they have to do to keep these programs going. And the unfortunate truth is a lot of these kids are not going to meet the requirements that they need to meet to get into some of these universities. But can you imagine if Duke and UNC up their admission standards for their athletes? Like, that's not good. I just can't see that happening. I think there are going to be negative repercussions for our people, of course, because there always is. But I think that as a whole, the universities aren't going to do too much to change up.
I kind of think though that we've had this conversation before. I know you and I have that there is a large segment of the population that prefers or say they prefer college athletics. So I don't think they care. They care who's on the team. They're going to root for Duke, whoever's on the court for Duke. And a lot of that already is people that once they get to the pros, like we are talking about with Russell Westbrook earlier, they feel like these guys are feel entitled and they shouldn't even be there. They didn't do anything but dribble a basketball or throw a football. So I think I think you'd be shocked how many people still went to sold out games if not a single NFL player played on the college football team.
I mean, I do think there is like those collegiate fans where they're just fans year after year, no matter who's there, or just like take for instance KU basketball fans. They're going to be a fan every year after year, no matter who's there. But I have seen like this year with having kids who aren't your normal. I guess what you would say is KU players, like not your top 25. I think they're. I mean, I know their ticket prices have went down, and just like their social media buzz went down. So I think it could somewhat affect who's actually on the court. Like, I think if you have a whole team full of, 12 white guys and they're not athletic and they're just getting ran, I think that can actually definitely affect. I mean, it's going to affect the boosters at least.
Not if that's all they playing against though.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. Wait, do you understand though how many people sit here and watch high school sports? I mean,
yeah, I do that.
That's what I'm saying. So some of these kids in high school have no chance. They're not elite athletes. They're not college bound, but I still every Friday night I'm sitting here watching a local high school football or basketball game. I mean,
yep. Yeah, I do too. Even my boys aren't playing, I watch.
Yeah.
Y'all better than me because I want to see top level athletics, and I sure ain't watching no high school.
Well, I do.
High school ball that one of my kids or a friend of the family isn't playing on. So I mean, but I said,
watch it. I ain't gonna lie, I watch it.
But that's why
I watch good games. If the kids aren't good, I'm not going to just a 1A school or anything like that to watch a game. But
I want to see championships.
I treat exactly. I treat it just like I do baseball. I watch baseball in October. October and on to the World Series, and I'll watch the state championship. But to y'all's point, I hope that they do take a stance and start going away from those players who are high level but may not qualify for the Michigans of the world or the University of Texas of the world, because guess what? Then they may start going to the Prairie Views and the Morehouses, and then our schools, our HBCUs,
or better yet, pay them.
Right, or pay them. But I would like to see them go to our schools, right? Because what Erika said is true. The amount of revenue that is gained off of these programs is monstrous. But the piece that we sleep on is that it is advertisement for these universities. So
no doubt.
So me growing up as a young black man in Topeka, Kansas, I wouldn't even, the University of Missouri would not have been on my radar had it not been for Doug Smith and Anthony Peeler. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a marketing ploy for these universities as well. That's why they invest in that, so that we get a Zion Williams instead of going to Duke, going to North Carolina A&T, and how much enrollment that will come to the university because of that. Because our HBCUs are struggling. They don't have the endowments that we just what Bennett College just they went on a massive fundraising campaign and they still didn't get their
Still,
accreditation. And I just read an article where they're saying, hey, listen, Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark University, y'all may need to go ahead and combine together, merge together for your survival. That's a way that we can save our HBCUs and people can say what they want to say about historically black colleges and universities, but they are important to our community. They're important because they produce many of the professionals that we have. And, like I said, uh, HBCUs, they take all comers. We got high level HBCUs and we got the HBCUs that's taking,
yep.
the your cousin who barely got out of high school. And there's a place for all of them. So
Your George Bush cousin. Yeah.
right. Yo, John
Or
McCain.
Jib.
Yeah, or Jeb. Jeb's a mess. Remember when 45 was clowning us? He said Jeb's a mess. But anyway.
But also think about when you're talking about the professionals produced by the HBCUs, so I know certain companies that if they want a black engineer, they're going to go to Southern or they're going to go to
A&T.
yeah, North Carolina A&T or what have you. So then when you're a black student majoring in engineering at University of Illinois, University of Missouri, and the job fair comes around, they're like, we're not even talking to you because we already got our black dude that we need. We already got him from Southern or we already got him from North Carolina A&T. So I think sometimes it could be a detriment being one of the only black students at a school like that in a certain field because they're automatically going to the HBCUs as well. So you can get all kind of opportunities by going there as well that you may not get by going to a state university or a large.
To me, the crazy thing about that is I want my kids to go to a HBCU, and I wonder what it would have been like for me to go to a HBCU because I feel like I don't wonder about being the one chosen from an HBCU for a major company. I wonder about the network or the connections that I could have built at an HBCU and what type of company, what type of firm I could have built with those connections coming out of an HBCU. Like how many other black, female, male attorneys could I have linked up with and built some type of conglomerate by now instead of me just being out here just thugging it, trying to figure it out until, Brandon Williams took me under his wing. I was just out here trying to figure it out. What could I have done? What could have I accomplished in these last 7, 8 years?
It draws home the point that we always talk about. A lot of the people that we sit across from in corporate America, they aren't that impressive. And we place a lot of notoriety and prestige on these universities that they don't deserve. And we can build our own universities and create our own network and our own systems that produce productive people that can be the leaders that our community needs. And we don't have to fight to sit next to somebody that doesn't deserve to be there.
I read an interesting article about that exact thing, how mediocrity often ends up winning because you know we say we have to run twice as fast, jump twice as high, and so in our mind, I think sometimes if there's a position you say, man, they're not gonna give it to me, so I don't even apply for it. Or this promotion comes up and be like, I don't hit every last single one of the qualifications, so I don't apply. But then you have a white dude who doesn't meet the qualifications, and he's like, I'm gonna apply anyway, right? So nobody that applies meets the minimum qualifications, but they're gonna have to give the job to somebody, right? So they give it to this mediocre cat because he kind of, he felt this belongs to me, this is mine, And sometimes I think we can psych ourselves out. That's why I always try to tell people, even if you ain't Go ahead and put in for that promotion. Go ahead and do that. Who knows? You might get it. They've been giving it to these people that aren't qualified for ages. Why not you?
Right. You're right. With that being said, hey, it was another good show. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Man Listen Show. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. We'll holler at you next time. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.